Hello and welcome to the third episode of Return to the Temple, the Lucha Underground retrospective podcast where we dive in and break down all of the fantastic episodes of Lucha Underground throughout its four seasons. 4 seasons, right?
4 seasons, 2014 to 2018.
I am Jacob, and as you've just heard, I am joined once again by my good friend and fantastic co-host, Steve. Steve, anything new? Anything new in your life besides Lucha Underground?
No, the only thing new is more Lucha Underground, as it should be. Abandon all other pursuits, only Lucha Libre.
Only Lucha. Lucha 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, baby.
Yeah, you can watch Lucha Underground and then this podcast, and that's it. If you do anything else, you're betraying us.
Yeah, it's not. That's an incorrect way to live life, is doing anything aside from Return to the Temple loop directly into Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
You should be watching a Lucha Underground episode, immediately listening to another episode of the podcast. If we haven't, and then watch another Lucha Underground episode. If we haven't released an episode of the podcast for the episode that you watch, you should just go to sleep until the new episode pops up.
Yeah. It's about once a week, so you'll get plenty of rest.
Yes, you'll be well rested, ready to digest all of our Lucha observations. But the Lucha Legion, I'm sure, is all excitedly listening to hear our thoughts on the third episode of Lucha Underground, Crossing the Border, a name which, when I said it to my girlfriend, she wasn't sure if it was politically correct or not. But should we jump right into it, or is there anything you want to preface it with?
No, let's get right into it. Of course, we open up with a segment. First of all, I haven't mentioned this yet, but God bless the crane in Lucha Underground. I say this, of course, because we get these sweeping crane shots often in the intros, but also throughout the match, we'll get like an overhead view of the action in the wrestling. It's always just a fun, and it's a different angle than you'll see in just about any other promotion.
It's something that, like, recently I feel, I guess last year, AEW started getting like praise for its innovative camera work, and they were 100% just retreading ground that Lucha Underground had already covered. I remember people were like, "Oh, they have the overhead camera that's like directly fixed down on the ring to get that bird's eye view. That's so crazy!" And it's like Lucha Underground had been doing that from literally episode 2. Like, I don't know what you're so excited about.
And Lucha, and Lucha Underground also has this great thematic reason for doing it, right? Because we have that Aztec seal in the center of the ring. That it's always this reminder. It's real cool. But anyway, we do this big sweeping crane shot. Crowd's going crazy. And then we somewhat awkwardly transition to what is supposed to be live in Dario Cueto's office as Conan is peeping through the blinds out of the office. And he says, "Man, you got everybody going crazy out there for this promotion." And they get talking, and Conan mentions that he's bringing over these 3 young up-and-coming luchadors, Drago, Phoenix, and Pentagon Jr. And I say it like that because Conan also puts a lot of accent on Pentagon and none on Jr., which I thought was somewhat amusing.
That's really funny. I find that, Conan, like, he's very deliberate in his speech in a way that's both enjoyable and comical.
Yeah.
He will really emphasize certain words, like go all in on the accent on some things and then just zero on others. Yeah, that's very curious.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of that. Dario's first response is the rumors of visa troubles are untrue, which took me like 3 watches to hear exactly what he said, because he says it in about half a second.
I think like he really runs through it. He's like, the rumors of visa issues are untrue, and so like the first like 5 words of the sentence are like a garbled mess, but you can hear it eventually. Yeah. So I guess this is their way of explaining why we haven't seen like a super large amount of AAA talent so far. But these are recorded in bulk, so it's a little bit weird. Like, it's almost like they're responding to a backlash that they're imagining. I was wondering if there like were visa issues, because they're not. I don't know if they're filmed in bulk, but they're obviously released not
like according to like they were filmed all in advance before the season started. So I was wondering if there were people going to the live shows, because like dirt sheets exist, even if you're just having like live promotions. Like if you're having like, like Ring of Honor on Twitch or whatever, people are still breaking that shit down. I would not be surprised if people were like, if like Phoenix and Drago and Pentagon had been like advertised for these shows and they weren't showing up and people were like confused and like speculating that it was border issues or whatever. And I was wondering if that line came from like actual dirt sheet speculation.
Yeah, it's possible. To my knowledge, the way that Lucha Underground works is that they record all their episodes over like a 3-week or 4-week period. So it's like back to back to back to back, like relentless. Which is why a few wrestlers have said like it's like the worst thing ever because you're doing like 3 matches a day.
Yeah, but at least you get it over with, right? It's like kind of all in that one burst.
Yeah, and then you're not allowed to work for a year. Yeah, the Lucha Underground contracts are notoriously kind of like this like weird hybrid of television and pro wrestling contracts, and it works great for neither of them.
We'll be diving into those pretty deeply, I think, around season 4, like when those issues really started to pop up and people were like, hey, hold on, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But yeah, Lucha Underground contracts will be a staple topic of this podcast at some point. So he just kind of introduces the luchadors, and then what is Dario kind of like? He previews the main event, right?
Yeah. So Dario has this like really clever off the cuff idea that wasn't extremely obvious the second he named 3 luchadors. To have these 3 luchadors fight in a triple threat main event. And he says 3-way match, right? Because they are very particular about the verbiage.
He actually doesn't use anything like that. What he says is, what if I put the 3 hottest young luchadors in Mexico in a match against each other? That's all. He doesn't use 3-way. He doesn't use triple threat. He doesn't say anything like that. Later in the show, Matt Stryker refers to it as a 3-way dance.
Yeah.
I believe they call it. I believe Melissa Santos calls it a triple threat. Actually.
Yeah. So
but we'll be more careful to take notes of that on the next one. But I honestly, it's not. That's the most important element of it for me. But I found it interesting the way that he was like, because some wrestling companies are very specific about their verbiage about matches, and it's interesting that Dario wasn't like pushing a certain vocabulary out to the audience from the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, he does that with his own particular unique opportunities. He loves to put a label on them. But as far as like your general matches, they're pretty loosey goosey.
We haven't seen the first. I mean, unless you count the $100,000, we haven't seen a unique opportunity yet, right?
Yeah, no, not yet. It's gonna come though.
Excited.
We also get the last thing I really want to mention about this this segment rather, is we get the first hint that I've picked up. I might have missed one on the last 2 episodes of Dario's off-screen coke usage. I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't. Wait, what was this?
So when they first start talking, Dario like leans back in his chair and just starts like cleaning his nose out, like he just starts like snorting, like he's just done a line. And I didn't notice this like 3 times I watched Lucha Underground, but I remember watching an after show and they kept pointing out like, yeah, he's messing with his nose again at the start of this promo.
That is, I can't say I'm surprised based on the Dario Cueto character.
Yeah,
but that is really interesting, and I did not pick up on that at all. That is really interesting. I'll have to give that another watch. That is so cool. I mean, once again, Dario Cueto, he's so gifted as like he does put in that subtlety, which I really appreciate. And we're going to get into that really at the end of the episode, that last segment. There's a lot of good stuff there that having that advanced knowledge and going back to it really makes it so much more interesting. But we'll get there when we get there. So that kind of concludes the segment. We get Matt Stryker and Vampiro introducing the show. Vampiro does this weird karate pose as they cut to the ring. And we're told that, which is not the last time that he does that. This was like Vampiro. So Matt Stryker is normally the one who kind of gives the breakdown of what we're about to see at the beginning of the episode. And it's kind of a common thread that Vampiro doesn't really know what to do with himself. He knows that he's on camera, but he doesn't really know what to do. Yeah. Sometimes he'll like stare goggle-eyed at Matt Stryker. Sometimes he'll just like fidget and be really weird. And this was one of the latter times. God, Vampiro is so weird. So, and we'll get into this as the episode continues, but you know, in the first episode, I referred to our commentary team as subpar, and you took issue with that.
Yeah.
And I apologized because I did feel that in that first episode they did a pretty good job. I am going back to that. This is a bad commentary team. I'm sorry. I was doing my best. I was hoping the nostalgia would carry me through it, but they do a bad job, and we will talk about that a lot. So what happens after we get that initial thing? We get Dario coming out, and this is a note that I made. So Melissa Santos is in the ring.
Yeah.
She introduces the owner and promoter of Lucha Underground, Dario Cueto. Dario's boos are piped in 100%.
Boo! Yeah.
Those are canned boos. The audience is also booing, but the boos sound exactly the same every time he enters. So they are also piped in.
Yeah, it's a pretty signature chant. You'll hear a lot of that. He comes in, and this is one of the disadvantages of the sort of dissociation between the segments and the promos and the in-ring stuff, where the audience and the commentary team doesn't see what happens in Dario's office, because Dario just kind of introduces the same thing again, or at least I thought he was. Actually, you know what? I made this note before he finished the promo, because I thought he was going to come out and say, because he comes out and he talks about, I keep hearing there's not enough lucha in Lucha Underground. Not enough lucha, not enough. And he says it exactly like that, and I love great.
It so much. It's so good.
And he says, I'm going to introduce some real lucha. And I thought at this point that he was going to introduce the main event. I'm like, that's weird that you have two back-to-back parts where he talks about the main event. But no, instead, he introduces El Mariachi Loco. Who's
Mejor luchador and Todo.
Yeah.
And it's Todo de Lucha Underground, El Mariachi Loco, baby. Oh my God. Fucking love Mariachi Loco. I believe this is his only appearance in Lucha Underground. The wrestler, the actual wrestler underneath the mask makes multiple appearances, but I believe the character of Mariachi Loco only is here. Yeah. Unless I'm wrong.
Maybe. He might show up to get squashed every once in a while. There's another guy that I didn't realize was this early in the show who shows up just to get his ass beat too.
We'll talk about that when we get there. That match was jeez. Okay, so tell me about El Mariachi Loco, or tell me what Dario says about El Mariachi Loco.
So El Mariachi Loco, he's like, I forget what he says. He goes, and I found him myself. I discovered him down the street at my favorite Mexican restaurant.
So good. He's like, this promo is like the best Dario we've gotten so far.
Yeah,
it is, and I mean that all the other Dario we've gotten has also been great. Like, this character is incredible. The way that he introduces Mariachi Loco is great. Like, it's such a good heel shit. He's like, "Oh, you want real lucha? Well, here's a Mexican guy I found down the street, so that counts." Not only does he play a mean trumpet, you know.
Yeah, and the guy like mimes the trumpet is great.
I believe this is Siniestro de la Muerte as well, right?
I believe so. I'm not 100% confident, so I'm just going to treat him as his own entity.
I love El Mariachi Loco. Anyway, this promo is comedy perfection.
It's great.
God, I love Dario Cueto.
It's also I don't know how much you know about Robert Rodriguez, who's the executive producer of this. He ran El Rey Network that this aired on.
Not much.
But it's also kind of a reference to him, because Robert Rodriguez's first film was El Mariachi.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was this action movie about a guy, a traveling mariachi who goes town to town. I
would watch the hell out of that.
It's pretty good. He made the first one for like $5,000 or something like that, and it shows. But that makes it kind of interesting. And then after that, we get Desperado with Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek, which is kind of a remake, kind of sequel of that. Which has the same main character of El Mariachi. Ironically, some people won't really know the significance of this, but the original title of El Desperado was going to be El Pistolero, which is where I get the name from.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can't get too much into the CWL business for those of our listeners who don't know what we're talking about. We'll get into that later down the line. But so, Dario has a line here that I wanted to highlight, which will transition us very nicely into the match, where he points out that there is no challenge too big for El Mariachi Loco, which causes his challenger to materialize and begin his entrance. And his challenger is the first appearance of Mascarita Sagrada, who is much more of a good luchador than El Mariachi Loco. Mascarita Sagrada is the first mini that we have on the show. And not the last, right? There's one more, two more?
I don't know, honestly. I can't remember any others off the top of my head.
I believe El Torito shows up, unless I'm mistaken. And I think there might be one more, but I don't remember. No other minis are featured the way that Mascarita Sagrada is featured. That's for certain.
Yeah.
So Mascarita Sagrada is a mini, which for those of you who don't know very much about lucha, means kind of like a little person. So Mariachi Loco is very, very tall. So there is a very there's a visual gag going on here. Mascarita Sagrada makes his way to the ring, and Mariachi Loco can't contain himself. He thinks it's so funny that he's been put in a match against a mini, and he begins laughing uncontrollably. And he actually asks for a timeout as soon as the bell rings.
Yeah.
Dario, I should mention, Dario has left at this point. He says there's no challenge too big for El Mariachi Loco, and then he dips, and then Mascarita comes out, and the match begins. So the first thing that happens is Mariachi Loco asks for a timeout. The referee says there's no timeouts in wrestling. Mariachi remembers, oh yes, I forgot about this sport that I do. Goes over to Mascarita and gets ready to do a Greco-Roman knuckle lock, but he puts it obviously way up above his head where Mascarita can't reach. So Mascarita is hopping up and down. It's very funny, I guess, if that's the kind of humor that you like. Matt Stryker, by the way, is loving it. Matt Stryker loves this. Matt Stryker thinks it's so funny that this person is small.
Yeah.
And so Mascarita, gets the early advantage. Does a lot of tilt-a-whirl moves, basically using Mariachi's size against him, kind of creating a lot of momentum so that Mariachi can't stand on his feet because of his higher center of gravity. It's good psychology, brother dude. Hits a big cannonball dive to the outside, which looks fantastic. I gotta say, it's clear that Mascarita is a much more competent wrestler than Mariachi Loco in this match, but Mariachi does a good job of being a body that gets moves done to him.
Yeah.
After the cannonball dive, Matt Stryker says, "We live in a society that's way too uptight." And it's like, okay, jocker.
Okay. So that's set up by... I don't know what line leads up to this, but
I remember. So Matt Stryker says, what's the politically correct term to refer to Mascarita Sagrada? And Vampiro says, fun. And Matt Stryker goes, oh, that's absolutely right. We live in a society that's way too uptight. Just have fun.
Yeah. Which, it's just kind of bad piling on top of bad with that call. It's just weird. Like, it's not even like, I'm not like clutching my pearls at it. It's just a weird line.
I would say by itself, this would not have any... Just Matt Stryker's performance on this episode specifically, I don't know if it continues into the next episodes, although I will be giving it that additional scrutiny, is just bad. Matt Stryker does a bad job on this show. And honestly, if I'm not pulling any punches and being completely honest, he embarrasses himself on this show. And this is the beginning of that. I'm also not like clutching my pearls on it. I'm obviously not like offended or whatever.
Yeah.
But like the line comes out of nowhere. Like that's not what, like no one cares about. No one's like calling Matt Stryker out for calling a match with a mini wrestler. The fact that society is way too uptight, it's not relevant to what's going on here because we've already talked about how this is an equal opportunity space. Like no one's shit talking you, Matt Stryker. I don't understand what the problem is, but so after that, El Mariachi Loco is able to kind of get some momentum back, hits a couple of just brutal looking kicks on Mascarita Sagrada, which Mascarita, of course, does a great job of selling by like flying all the way across the ring when this like 6'2" dude boots this like 4 foot, I guess shorter, 3'5".
I don't
know. Very short. Mascarita is very short.
Height is very difficult in Lucha Underground, as will come.
Mascarita, boots. not Masquerita. Loko boots Masquerita all the way across the ring. Matt Striker then decides to bury the product by saying, Mariachi Loco supposedly works in a Mexican restaurant. It's like, okay. And Vampiro, by the way, does a great job of covering by says, he does. I ate there the other day.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciated from Vampiro. Vampiro saving Matt Striker commentary.
I don't think that was a fourth wall break. I think he just said supposedly because Dario just found this guy.
Yeah, I think I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't. That was a fine. That didn't bump up on me at all.
I guess I'm just. It was after going back to this match. So these are notes that I took on my rewatch. So I had already kind of had Matt Striker ruined for me after the next match. But the point is, yeah. So Matt Striker's just being. I think that was kind of a weird call. But either way, I think Vampiro did a good job of responding to it. It was a fun interaction between the two of them.
Yeah.
Mariachi Loco fucking kills Masquerita Sagrada with a super kick.
Yeah.
And goes up to the top for a diving senton. Masquerita rolls out of the way, flat back, an incredible tilt-a-whirl DDT for Masquerita Sagrada. Gets him in a guillotine choke and is able to turn that into a roll-up pin. Masquerita Sagrada defeats El Mariachi Loco in our first contest of the night. What happens next?
So immediately after the match, Chavo Guerrero hits the ring and just beats the shit out of Masquerita Sagrada, starting with just a boot to the face that Vampiro is in love with, despite the fact that he was like head over heels in love with Masquerita Sagrada 3 minutes ago.
So I wrote this note here which says Vampiro decides he's a heel.
Yeah.
Vampiro has not been a heel up until this point. He's been like supportive of everyone. He's been like tough. He's been like, look, you can't just expect to get by on your sob story. You have to be a fighter. But when people fight, he's a fan of it.
Yeah.
And that's what Masquerita was doing. And like Vampiro all of a sudden is like, yeah, kick the shit out of that little person. It's just a jarring transition from like.
Yeah. And it's even worse considering like what the next segment is.
Yeah. So Chavo basically beats the crap out of Masquerita. Everyone boos. Big Culero chants, and
Guess it.
Yeah, that's the end.
Yeah, it's not a long bit, but this whole stretch is just more cool stuff from Chavo. I really enjoy it. I kind of like want that T-shirt now. Like I'm slowly becoming a Chavo.
I'm going to be complimenting Chavo a lot after the interview. So up next we have we cut to an interview that has happened before the show.
A pre-taped interview on a pre-taped show.
Yeah. Where Vampiro is interviewing Chavo Guerrero and kind of goes over his antics. And I'm going to turn it over to you in just a second, but I just want to note that Vampiro is wearing a bandana on his head, and over that bandana, he's wearing a fedora.
Yeah. And it's fun. I have the episode pulled up in another window right now, and on this freeze frame, it just looks like Chavo staring at the fedora and disdain, which big agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chavo sort of comes in, and it's just, he first comes in and his first bit is he rants about how he was brought in as, I think they say, oh, Chavo Guerrero, they know him. He can come in and, he can be the opponent. And that he resents the fact that Blue Demon Jr. was supposed to be this big flagship get for the company. And it's just all this, like, really, like, insecure heel stuff. And it's not like overly complicated, but he does a really good job with it. He comes, and for the record, for those at home, I can't stand work shoots 99.9% of the time. And he comes like right up to the door of it and steps back. Like he all but says like lay down for a guy.
Yeah. But he doesn't, which I really appreciate.
He doesn't.
Also, we're in the same boat on the work shoot thing. I'm not a fan. I hated when MJF did the stupid fucking I'm laying down for you, Moxley. Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'm only ever gonna mention like AEW because I don't watch any WWE. By the way, in case anyone's wondering why I'm not doing that, I just haven't. I'm just kind of all my reference points are AEW as opposed to WWE.
There's also just a crap ton of crossover.
Yeah.
Like maybe we'll get to a point where we start referencing MLW too, but I haven't been watching that. So
I have not seen any MLW except for I believe I saw one clip where Mil Muertes showed up. But important in this, so Chavo just does a fantastic job. I mean, Chavo Guerrero right now MVP of Lucha Underground in these first 3 episodes, without a doubt.
Yeah, it almost like he feels like the guy that they're setting up to be maybe their first champ. He feels like the biggest deal on the show.
100%. And it kind of, I feel like I didn't really appreciate it as much when I was watching it the first time, because I was just like, why isn't this, why is Prince Puma not, getting more matches, not getting more airtime? He's just getting like the same training montage every week. And we get that again this week. Yeah. And there was no real confrontation between Puma and Chavo, right? That didn't really, I mean, not in season 1 at least. I don't believe they had any feud, right?
No, Chavo is... I don't know if Chavo ever breaches onto that, like, S-tier main event guy spot.
Which is bullshit. I mean, he's so good here. Like, it's ridiculous how good he is right now.
Yeah. And this is a good time to mention... I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I really like... because of Chavo's, like, familial status and his heritage, he's in this really unique position where he feels like... the way I would describe it, he feels like the oldest kid at the kids' table.
Yes, I like that a lot. I like that analogy a lot. Yeah, he doesn't feel like a made legend, but he feels like a, hardened veteran.
Yeah, like
it's kind of the energy that I feel like Jon Moxley brought to AEW for a while. In terms of like a guy who's been around the fucking block. Yeah, which I always appreciated.
Yeah, because I really like it where he'll be in a segment with a guy like Vampiro or a guy like Conan, and they'll sort of talk to him like he's still a kid. I think even Conan calls him Chavito.
Oh, seriously? I didn't even pick up on that.
I know they do it, like, it comes up a couple times. There's another guy that shows up later that definitely calls him Chavito. But then he'll be he'll be Sexy Star's mentor figure, right? Like, he has this, like, flexibility in his role, and it really adds to that chip on his shoulder, too. Like, it feels like his peers don't treat him as a peer. But anyway, that's just one element that I really like about Chavo Guerrero in Lucha Underground in particular.
We're gonna get let's finish up our kind of Chavo trio here of Chavo time, because we have one more Chavo segment before we move on to our next thing. So let's get through that and then we'll finish our Chavo talk.
Yeah.
We have something that I have written down here as Chavo is a social butterfly, where he has an extremely eventful walk through a hallway. So do you want to tell us what happened in this? As you once again, the responsibility of talking about something is thrust on you, segment Meister.
Yeah, very active episode for Steve today. But we'll make up for it once we get to like an Aztec warfare, and I'll just like go take a nap or something,
right.
Or all night long. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. But so Chavo's walking through this hallway, this corridor. Great lighting again. Like, I feel like it's steadily improving their segment work. And the first guy that comes up to him is Conan, and this is the part where I mentioned where I think he calls him Chavito. Can't really hear it. And Conan's like, "Hey man, you're like family to me, and but I gotta tell you, they're talking down in Mexico."
Who's talking?
He said, I think he name drops La Raza.
He says La Raza, baby.
Yeah. And he says, and they're not happy about what you did to Blue Demon Jr. And it's only a matter of time before they hear about what you did to Masquerita Sagrada. He goes, "If you want my advice, you should just disappear." Which
vanish, go extinct,
like
go the comprehensive immigration bill. Or
yeah,
ghost. Poof.
Oh, what does
that was such a good line. I mean, I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
Comprehensive immigration bill. How did that go over my head the first time I watched this?
Yeah.
It was so funny.
That's another great Conan line from the first segment that we missed was he says, "These guys are on point like a decimal."
Oh my god. Yes. I mean, like, Conan's like specific, like his, I guess I would call it like endless supply of like very personal Mexican American idioms I find very, very entertaining.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really funny.
And Chavo seems surprised by this negative reaction, which kind of makes sense considering he's a Guerrero. You're like, is this not what we do, guys?
It's like, yeah, I thought this was allowed. Like, I don't know why everyone's mad at me. It's like, light cheat steel, brother. Like,
Yeah.
it's my whole shit. But the lights flicker, and he bumps into Mil Muertes, who just is scary, and then moves on. And then Chavo is like, "Oh wow, that was scary," and he once again turns around, and the beautiful Katrina is there, and we'll be talking a lot about Katrina in the next match, because Katrina is talked a lot in the next match. But what does Katrina say to Chavo?
So Katrina is very upset that Chavo stole something that belonged to Mil Muertes, presumably the soul of Blue Demon Jr. In some form
or the beatdown, like the violence, because Chavo interrupted Mil Muertes' attack on Blue Demon at the end of the last show.
Yes. And she tells him, she's like, "Don't worry though." I think she goes, "And one day you will belong to him as well," and just gives him the old lick.
The old lick.
Really
every time.
Really pushing that in these early episodes. Just does not go through a segment without licking somebody.
This and the last show are both double lick shows, right?
Yeah, I don't think she gets two in last episode because Chavo interrupts.
Oh yeah, I thought. Oh yeah, she was going to. Was she going to? I don't remember. But anyway, we get a 2 lick episode this time, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to finish up our Chavo compliments.
Yeah.
Going into this project, this is not something that I thought I would be saying in a million years, but Chavo is so underrated and he's so good. I love Chavo Guerrero now. I will buy his merchandise.
Yeah. That's our first merch recommendation of the podcast. Chavo Guerrero. His reactions to these segments are so great because he reacts to Conan kind of like, "Oh man, I thought you were going to be on my side. What the? I thought I was doing right." And then he sees...
Especially with the fucking narrative of Vampiro. I mean, he's been listening to Vampiro commentary. He's been like, "Oh yeah, you're a piece of shit too.
Yeah.
You should like..."
He's like... And then he sees Mil and he's like, "Well, that's a guy. All right." And then Katrina... And then she walks by and he still looks at her like, What show am I on? What is going on?
He's like, "I'm a wrestler. I'm not like a magic man. I don't know what's going on here."
He's like, "I thought we were doing gang shit, not spooky shit. What are we doing?"
But there's a reason why Mil Muertes and Katrina have been spotted in this hallway. It's because they are on their way to the ring to have a match.
Yes.
Should we get into that match?
I believe we should.
So in the ring already, we have our first jobber, right? We didn't have a jobber on the last show, did we?
Unless you count El Mariachi Loco.
Oh, true. Okay. Yeah. Well, our first, I would say, our first featured jobber, because I know Ricky Mandel shows up several more times.
Yeah.
Anyway, from Venice Beach, California, Ricky Mandel. Matt Striker has his only good line of the night where he says, "The last guy I knew from Venice Beach, California did pretty well in a wrestling ring," which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, accompanied by Katrina, Mil Muertes. And we actually get, wow, I forgot about this. Throwing it over to you again, we get a Mil backstory package while Mil's on his way to the ring.
Yes. I didn't realize they explained all this so early.
This felt like really early to me.
Which is a theme. The first thing that comes up is like they have these weird titles, like these like Windows Movie Maker titles. Death is a debt that we all must pay, or we must all pay.
It didn't. It seemed like I would see it on like a book, on like a flyer for a wrestling show. It looked like that font,
Yeah.
It looked like the font that, like, if you saw like the card of a wrestling match like posted on like the, I don't know, community center bulletin board or whatever, that's the font that it would be written in.
Yes, it looks good. It is stylistically the right choice. It's just not. It's a little too clean. It looks a little last minute.
Yeah.
But we go through this package and it's Katrina, and she's narrating as Pascal Mendoza. There's a young boy in 1985, the earthquake in Mexico City. And he's buried alive under all this rubble. and she says something along the lines of like he spent a week on death's door, and
I believe it was 10 days.
10 days.
Regardless.
And when he emerged, he was not scared. He enjoyed it, or something along those. Something about being enamored with the concept of death.
This is just me.
Yeah.
But like that earthquake was a pretty big fucking deal, right? Like,
yeah,
it was a really, really bad tragedy. How are we feeling about that being used for like this backstory? Like, what if someone was like buried in the wreckage of the Twin Towers on 9/11? You know, like is that like a backstory that like would be received well? It feels like kind of a comparable event. Obviously, I mean, the terror attacks on 9/11 were like capitalized a lot more for like profit, but like in terms of their actual impact, like it feels like unnecessarily gruesome. Like do what the Undertaker did and just like invent a tragedy, like his house burned down or something. I don't know. It feels a little bit too like there are people watching this show that might have been impacted by that event. You know what I mean?
It's weird. I knew his backstory, or I remembered his backstory beforehand, but I never remembered this package. I thought they had only referenced it. And I feel like in reference it was fine. But like having it visualized is
they had like historical footage and everything. I don't know. It seemed a little weird to me. But
it's a little weird.
It works, I guess. Well, actually, as we're going to talk about, Mil Muertes has really not worked, and we're going to talk about that in this match as well. Do you have anything more to say about the package, or do you want me to go into the match?
There was one really cool shot where that almost like I was like, you know what? Make it about whatever you want. This is a cool shot. Where he, the child of Pascal Mendoza, picks up a stone from the rubble, and as he's lifting the stone and rising, it starts intercutting between him and Mil Muertes in a suit doing the same, and it explains the power of the stone. Which again, in reference, when they say that's a stone from the rubble that buried his family, it works. But having it visualized, it's him just picking a rock off the ground. As cool as it is, a little weird. We also get Mil Muertes in a suit, which always looks badass.
His mask is so good. It's such a good mask. It's one of the best Lucha masks ever.
It's up there.
In my opinion. So now we have the match itself, and I'm gonna go through. Shouldn't take too long. The match itself before I go through the commentary.
Yeah.
So this match it goes on for a while, but not much happens, if that makes sense. It's kind of so Ricky Mandel starts off with just some strikes, isn't able to get Mil Muertes down. Mil Muertes fires back and is just kind of punching him around the ring for 5 more minutes. And eventually hits the flatliner and gets the win. I know that's kind of a bare bones summary, but that's kind of all that happened in this match. Oh, there was a Katrina interference spot where she like yanked on Ricky's hair, but that wasn't really important.
Yeah, it was more to show she was a dick than it was to be like he needs this manager interference, right? Like it was.
Yeah, Ricky Mandel was already like out of it at that point. He was like hung up on the ropes, unconscious, and she was just like, fuck you," you know. Mil hits the flatliner for the win. Flatliner looks fucking sick. Does a great job. I love it.
Yeah.
You know, really interesting finish. I think that, you know, when you have a guy who's the size of Mil Muertes, you would assume he would use a power move for a finisher. And I think that even though this is not that, it still works really well.
Yeah.
That being said, I would have liked him to use any power moves in this match because it's all strikes. I don't think he actually grapples a single time aside from the flatliner, which is really disappointing. I want to see the raw power of Mil Muertes. I want to see him throwing fuckers across the ring. I want to see him military pressing Ricky Mandel, although Ricky Mandel's really tall. I did not remember this.
Yeah, one of the tricky things about Mil Muertes is he's by far not the largest guy in Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
He's often presented as such, but oftentimes you will see him square up with somebody and you're like,
But regardless, I feel like this is a time where, you know, in that Blue Demon match, I was giving the excuse of like, well, Blue Demon isn't mobile, so Mil Muertes couldn't do all his stuff. But this is Ricky Mandel can bump like a motherfucker. You know, pick him up, throw him around. I don't understand what the problem is, unless you can't. In which case, why are you getting pushed? You know.
Yeah, I didn't.
So yeah, that really confounded me.
Yeah, I actually, slight difference in opinion. I liked this match quite a bit.
wasn't like head over heels with it, but I just thought it was. I thought this match was what last week's match should have been, where it was just Mill beating the piss out of somebody.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that this is a better version of last week's match. It's still not what I want completely from someone who is the size of Mil Muertes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mill, you mentioned not doing a lot of power moves. I don't think he hits a lot of those in general. I think he is much more of a brawler.
It's gonna be one fucking suplex, okay? Just one.
Yeah.
Just one. One standing suplex. That's all I want.
Yeah. Something I realized watching this, and I think watching last episode, Mil Muertes has some of the best punches I've ever seen in pro wrestling.
Oh my god, yeah. When the one that really stood out to me though, I should highlight this. It was a lot of striking. The strikes were very good. Yeah. The one that stands out to me specifically is when Ricky Mandel jumps off the top rope and Mill just pops him right in the fucking jaw on his way down, and God, it looks like he fucking kills him. And that's actually the thing that lets him set up for the flatliner and get the win. So that was really cool.
Yeah, he does that. He did it as like part of his comeback against Blue Demon Jr. too, where he just punched him and Blue Demon went flying. It is kind of like that's probably his best move. It's just the right hand. He hits a spear as well, which is the highest spear I think I've ever seen anybody hit. Like it's almost a shoulder check.
Yeah,
still works.
But does he do that in this match?
Yeah, he spears Mandel like right in the chest.
Oh, yeah, I missed that. Okay, I take it back. Fine, I like it. I missed the spear. I was probably writing down some horrible Matt Striker line while that happened.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, that's the match. Let's talk about Matt Striker. So Katrina is at ringside in this match.
Yeah.
And the commentary team will not let you forget it because this whole match, I would say probably a third of Matt Striker's commentary relates to the match and like 2/3 relates to Katrina's breasts.
Yeah.
Let's put a disclaimer first of all. Katrina Perez is a very attractive woman. Yeah. There are a lot of attractive people in professional wrestling, some of whom are like Johnny Mundo, also very talented athletes. And there's nothing wrong with making a comment about how attractive a person is when part of the reason why they're on the TV in the first place is because of how attractive they are. That's fine. Separately, there is also what Matt Striker did in this match. Would you agree that this crosses a line in some way?
This was much. This was narratively, I think it was narratively harmful because it was.
I'm going to read. Yeah. I'm going to read. Actually, I'm not going to read because they're burned into my memory. I'm going to recite some of the lines that Matt Striker says. Katrina is clapping. So a very frequent thing that people will do in professional wrestling, I'm sure many of you already know this, is kind of clap to give the person that they're cheering for energy. Yeah. Katrina is doing that to Mil Muertes in the very opening moments when he's getting hit with some lariats from Ricky Mandel. Or not, they're not lariats, they're clotheslines. And she's clapping, and Matt Striker goes, oh, please keep clapping. And, it's super weird, and everyone's really uncomfortable. And then Katrina is later slapping the apron. By the way, so both the clapping and the slapping the apron, of course, these are upper body movements, which is causing upper body motion. And this is very exciting to Matt Striker. And he goes, please keep slapping the apron as much as you want. And there's another time, I forget what the inciting thing is, but he's like, he's just like, Katrina's hot, Yeah. Which is, you're not wrong, but like, you get it,
He has a line post-match that I don't. Are we going to talk about post-match right away?
I was going to end it with that. Yeah. So Katrina does the lick on Ricky Mandel. Matt Striker lets out a moan of pleasure, I guess, and says, "Does that turn anyone else on, or am I just weird?" Is that the line you were referencing?
Yeah, I love that line because it's like, no, a woman climbing on top of a guy and licking him is not a weird thing to think is hot, Matt. Like,
I don't.
All the other shit you should have maybe questioned before you said anything, but this one is when it would have made sense to be like, yeah, that's a hot moment. Like this is when they're trying to highlight the hotness, as opposed to before.
The four pillars of bad Matt Striker commentary in this match.
Yeah.
Or the four pillars of Matt Striker being thirsty in this match.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I gotta be honest. I hope we never see an end to Matt Striker's thirst because I will never not be entertained by you trying to scientifically describe it.
Do you like how
as you know, when a woman claps,
I'm trying to like talk about it in a way that like both highlights the situation, but also doesn't make me sound like Matt Striker. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't want people to listen to this and be like, whoa, Jacob's a horny monster. You know, I'm just analyzing the situation with the facts involved. I'm like, because I needed to talk about that to make it make sense why Matt Striker said these things. But yeah, it's excessive.
It's kind of funny when you watch the episode because she won't be on screen when he's saying this stuff, or she'll be like off to the side. And normally when a commentator mentions something that's happening like off to the side, or the editor, or assuming you have the cameraman, which I'm assuming if Katrina's at ringside, there's probably a cameraman looking at her. Just because A, that's smart, and B, it is what it is. But normally when somebody mentions somebody on commentary, you will cut to them in the edit. I don't think they do that because I think at some point the editor was like, I have to look at the match at some point, Matt. Like,
so I was on that point. They do that at the beginning of the match, and then they stop about like a quarter of the way through because there's just so much, like, because they're cutting to Katrina like 3 times like in a minute, and then they have to stop. I wish they'd pace themselves a little bit more, but I agree with that assessment. But so that was cool. I mean, not the Matt Striker part, but Mil Muertes getting the big win with the flatliner. Has that cool, like, I don't know. It's just like he puts a great snap on it. It works well.
Yeah, we have not given a rating to the last 2 matches.
Oh, are we doing individual? Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, the match ratings. Okay, well, Mariachi Loco versus Masquerita Sagrada. How many Masqueritas out of 5 would you give that?
I would give that 3 solid Masquerita Sagradas out of 5 solid Masquerita Sagradas.
I would give it the same score. I think it did its job very well.
This job, it was fun. Commentary maybe was trying to over-convince us that it was fun, but it was fun. And I like Masquerita Sagrada. Most importantly, because he is a character. Especially as we'll come to see, like, as he makes more and more appearances. He's not just like, and we also have the mini. Like, he's an actual guy with opinions and motivations.
I'm very excited for season 2 Masquerita Sagrada. That is peak Masquerita.
Definitely. And then this match, how many horny Matt Strikers out of 5 horny Matt Strikers would you give this match?
I mean, with the amount of horniness that there was, I would have to give it 5. But if I'm rating this as a match, I would give it, if we're going back to our Masquerade system, which I wanted to do Masqueritas for previous match, of course. But for this match, I'm going to go 2.5 out of 5 Masquerades. I agree. I liked the punches, but the commentary was so distracting. And I just want a little bit more grappling from Mil Muertes. Not a lot. I'm not asking him to become a grappler.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 suplex or 1 spine buster. Give me a spine buster. Spine buster is just so easy. Anyone can do it. I could spine buster someone in my sleep. Yeah. And I'm not even a wrestler. All right. Like,
I have.
No. You have spine bustered someone in your sleep?
Yeah. We don't talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. Technically, they haven't identified you as the culprit, so it's not wise for us to continue talking about this on the podcast. I would give it 2.5 Masquerades. I think you're going to give it a higher score.
Yeah, I'll probably give it. This is one of those times where I wish we had a spreadsheet of previous matches, because I did like it more than the Blue Demon match, and I think I gave the Blue Demon match 3.
I think you gave it 3. Yeah, I'm expecting you to give this 3.5. That is my guess.
I will probably keep this at 3 because of Striker just being distracting.
Yeah.
Which is my thing. Like, I will tolerate horniness up until the point where it's like, okay, talk about the match now.
If he had cut his lines in half, it would have been noticeable but not grating.
Yeah.
This was really detracted from the match.
Like, something at the beginning, something at the end, like that bit at the end with the like is fine.
Yeah.
But then, maybe talk about something else. It's almost like he's like afraid people are going to think he's a prude if he doesn't say something.
It got a lot of insecure masculinity energy off of Matt Stryker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's the match. We have, in my opinion, a really fantastic segment next. So I'm going to throw it over to you for that as we see Johnny Mundo making his way to Dario Cueto's office.
Oh yeah, we go full direct to DVD. Was it Boone the Doggy Hunt? Boone the Bounty Hunter. Yeah. But he comes down
Boone the Doggy Hunter. I would be a big fan of that. After getting his bounty hunting license taken away, he becomes a pet rescuer.
Yeah. Still doesn't wear a shirt. It's just running around saving the dogs of Beverly Hills.
No shirts for Boone the Bounty Hunter.
No. But he fun fact, I made a mention once that I mentioned this somewhere else where I thought he would make an absolutely fantastic Casey Jones from the Ninja Turtles.
Ooh, that's a good call. Hell yeah. Cast John Morrison as Casey Jones.
And then when that occurred to me, I remembered and I Googled it. And he actually did play Casey Jones in a fan film. I don't know if you've seen them. They're like the super powered beat down Bat in the Sun videos.
Holy shit, that was... Oh my god, I have to rewatch that because I've seen that video, but I think I watched that before I even saw Lucha Underground. I'll rewatch that now.
Yeah.
The one that always... My favorite of those is... I'm a huge Power Rangers mark.
That makes sense.
The listeners might not know that at this point. So I always like the one where it's like, I think it's Goku or there's a Ken, one of the, some anime person, versus Tommy from
I think it's Ryu.
The Green Ranger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryu. Yeah. One of those guys.
Because it's one of them.
I've never played any of those.
Yeah, because it's Ryu versus the Green Ranger and Sub-Zero and Scorpion versus the White Ranger, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I like those a lot.
All good videos.
But anyway, returning to this, the reason I mentioned that is because Johnny Mundo comes in like a bat out of hell, and he gets interrupted by the crew who don't want him to see Dario. Dario's busy in his office.
Small note, this is the first time we've seen Johnny Mundo without the exciting pants. He's wearing just a pair of blue jeans, and he looks fucking sick. He looks like the Chad image, like the really jacked Chad image, but like a lumberjack version of that. It's incredible. I love it so much.
Yeah, both are like top tier guys. I think look great in just a pair of jeans. Same thing goes for Puma later on. But comes in, the crew get in his face. He beats the shit out of both of them. He walks into Cueto's office, and he does the old wrestler thing that always like baffles me, where he's like, "Give me a match next week against Big Rick, and I'll give you violence." And Dario's like, "Okay." And then he goes, "And after I'm done with him, I'm coming for you." And Dario's not immediately like, "Well, you're fired. Fuck off."
This is just my personal opinion. Yeah. But if you do intend to do violence against Dario Cueto, a man who, from your own personal experience, you should know is not above like sending people to beat up other people. Like Dario was totally comfortable setting fuckers to beat you up at the end of the main event on the first week.
Yeah.
Maybe keep that in your back pocket a little bit.
Yeah.
So that when you do beat his ass, it's like you don't have to worry about that, because I mean, obviously that informs the events that we see later in the episode. But yeah, he's fully like, and I'm gonna beat you up after that. So get ready for me to do that, and don't try to stop me.
Yeah, very brief segment. I like it a lot. Really fun for Johnny Mundo.
Is this the first time that we see the bull statue?
It might be, or it's at least the first time it's really highlighted in frame. It stands out a lot because it's red.
Relevant. I feel like the reason why it's highlighted is, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe like Johnny Mundo interacts with it in some way later. I don't recall.
Well, it has a backstory reason.
That I don't remember that.
Okay,
maybe
that might not be revealed for a long time. I don't remember.
We'll get there when we get there. Either way,
but the bull was very thematic for Dario. The bull was very thematic for Dario Cueto. We'll just say that.
It works very nicely. The segment is great. Obviously, Johnny does a great job. Dario, fantastic talker as always. And we get our main event for next week. Big Rick, his in-ring or his match debut in Lucha Underground versus Johnny Mundo. Surely going to be a great WWE ECW rematch.
Yeah.
It's funny when you look back at that show and you're like, you know, actually, this probably should have been great. Like when you look at the roster that they had.
Yeah.
But yeah, we move on from that. We do get a segment of Big Rick accepting this this main event via a cash payout, and Cueto is very desperate. He just says, "Look, if you need more than that, I'll sign you a check. Just I need to make sure that he leaves the main event next week and goes to the hospital or leaves in an ambulance or something along those lines."
Which was curious to me.
Yeah.
That is the route he went. If I was in Dario Cueto's shoes, I would say, go beat him up right now.
Yeah.
Like, why wait until... Okay, you told him that you were going to put him in a match next week, but then he threatened to beat you up. I would personally, if I had the scruples of Dario Cueto, just say, okay, forget the fucking main event. I'm just going to sick my goons on you tonight, you know? So he's like, yes, next week when you have your scheduled match, beat him up then, you know?
Yeah. It's almost as if there is an unspoken mystical motivation for Dario to have as much violence performed in the ring as possible.
Perhaps indeed.
Maybe. That just sounds like some weird thing some screenwriting nerd would come up with to validate everything, but it is what it is. After that, we get a hype package for...
Oh, wait, sorry. I'm going to interrupt you briefly just to highlight one thing. So this is the theme of, and just to piggyback off what you're saying there, the theme of violence is becoming greater and greater. So Chavo was like, you want violence? I'm your man, Dario, in his interview with Vampiro. And then here, Johnny Mundo was like, if you want violence, you'll have it if you put me in that match with Big Rick. So these are, like, people are becoming increasingly committed to kind of giving Dario the violence that he craves.
Yeah. If you want violence, you got it. Anyway. And Dario, it's funny because it works out in his favor sometimes, and then other times it comes back to bite him in the ass. We transition from that. The commentary team sets up. I'm not going to say a whole lot of this because it's a lot of stuff we've seen before. It's just another promo package for Prince Puma. Doing some training and being really cool. And they
got a motorcycle now.
Yeah, they say the mask has like a lineage to it. It's also clearly not Prince Puma on the motorcycle.
Yeah, it's like...
They just suspiciously cuts to him on a parked motorcycle where he takes off the helmet.
He's been fighting his whole life. Or perhaps I should say, all his lives. It's like, okay, Conan, like, laying it on a bit thick here, buddy.
Yeah. It's almost like he hasn't debuted yet. It's really weird.
There's a lot of... It feels like we're getting at this point the same package every week. I don't remember how long this continues for, but I'm hoping they kind of cut it out on the next episode. But it's time for our main event. Looks like we've had enough talk. It's time for the main event. We have got the triple threat: Drago versus Pentagon versus Rey. Oh, sorry, not Rey Fenix yet. Just Fenix. He has not yet ascended to kinghood.
He might be Rey Fenix in Mexico at this point, because they do tweak names.
Yeah, especially someone in this match because their name tweaked quite a few times.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of spot notes here, so I'm just going to run through those.
Before we get started with the match, this is two out of my three favorite Lucha Underground themes debut in this episode with Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. I don't know if those left any impression on you.
So Phoenix's I was listening to and I was kind of like, I might actually want to go back and listen to Pentagon's theme. I liked Phoenix's theme, didn't love it. It's not as, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm used to like the classic wrestling butt rock themes.
Yeah.
But I might give
it sounds
Phoenix's another listen.
Sounds suspiciously like Imagine Dragons' Believer, which came out after the show. By the way.
Yeah.
You'll never unhear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, it does. Okay. So let me actually just briefly mention who these people are. So we get Drago coming out first, of course. He's got this like blue vest on and this crazy blue dragon mask, and he takes off the front of the dragon mask to reveal his face and his lucha mask with his long black tongue that slithers out of his mouth. I still, to this day, do not know exactly how he does that. I don't know what he has in his mouth that lets him do that.
Just a crap ton of licorice. Just
it's really I don't understand like how he gets it in and out of his mouth like that. Like it's talent. The fact that he's been able to maintain that illusion to this point is impressive. So he is kind of he's scary but not evil. You know, like he's presented as like this very like creepy way, but he's not like he's still a good guy. He's still like
it's
cool,
like primordial.
You know? Yeah. Then we've got Pentagon coming out, which is the inciting incident for Vampiro to make a politically incorrect remark, because Pentagon is dressed up in his kind of like pro wrestling theming. He's got like the headband on and everything.
Yeah. He is, as they would refer to, a skeleton ninja.
Do they call him that?
Or a ninja skeleton. I've just heard other people refer to him as such.
He does. He looks like a thick ninja skeleton, a muscular ninja skeleton.
Yeah.
And then we've got Phoenix coming out, who this I had remembered it this way, and I was unfortunately correct. Yeah, Phoenix. Like, I mean, he is a lot more trim now than he was then. Phoenix, for all of his athletic ability, just kind of looks like a guy.
Yeah.
I am
ironically
more visibly cut than Phoenix. I'm comfortable in Lucha Underground. If you look at me right now, and you look at Phoenix and Lucha Underground, I have more defined musculature than he does.
Yeah, it turns out,
and I am like infinitely less talented than he is. So
it turns out doing absurd physics-defying rope walking doesn't burn that many calories. Who knew? Yeah.
So Phoenix has his iconic mask with the stuff in the back and kind of the crest on the head. Looks great. Match starts out. Oh, is there anything else you want to say before the match starts? Or...
Only that this is first appearance of Phoenix and Pentagon, same time in the temple, and we immediately established that there's no relationship between these two guys at all. Nothing to point out.
They say, for those of you who don't know, Pentagon and Phoenix are in actuality brothers, like actual brothers, not just kayfabe brothers.
Brothers.
However, I will be bringing up that there is Lucha Bros offense in this match, and I'll be talking about that later. So the match starts, first of all, a huge pair of super kicks, first to Phoenix, then to Drago, which leaves Pentagon standing in the ring. He does a big dive onto Drago and Phoenix outside of the ring. He goes to do another one, but Drago kicks him in the head, is able to counter, and does a dive himself. He goes to dive again, but Phoenix is able to break it up and does. Vampiro calls it an 870 corkscrew off the top rope, and it's very impressive.
Yeah.
One thing that I found very interesting is that the match has countouts, so they're all on the outside, and the referee starts counting to 10. And I was like, "Whoa! I didn't realize we were doing it like that. Normally, triple threat matches don't have countouts." Oh, this incredible DDT from Drago. It's a tilt-a-whirl DDT. He just like does it perfectly. Spikes Pentagon right on his head. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Penta fires back with a sling blade, and then Penta goes to attack Phoenix. You have something?
Do you remember what they referred to the sling blade as on commentary?
Oh, they were like, oh, a bit of Tanahashi there, I think.
He just says a Tanahashi.
Oh, a Tanahashi? I thought it was like referencing.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, yeah, it's weird. At a later point, he will call it a Tanahashi clothesline. Like, he doesn't like the term sling blade. Not sure why.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. Tanahashi clothesline? Okay.
Yeah. So should start using that on calls.
What a freak. God, match striker. Phoenix is able to do this incredible pop-up Rana. I mean, it looks like it's straight out of 2K. You know, the animation is perfect on this. Pop up, complete rotation in the air, and sends Penta hurtling across the ring. Drago has gotten back to his feet and does this. I didn't even know what to call it. I called it a shoot-through DDT, where he jumps and takes both of them completely, like jumps forward and takes them both completely over.
Yeah.
Into a DDT.
It's a front flip DDT, but the physics of it don't make any sense.
It's a front flip DDT, but there's like the movement is like all lateral. It's so confusing. It doesn't look like it's real.
It almost looks like if there was a way to do a shoot front flip DDT, this is what you would imagine it looked like. Like, it's so crazy.
it looks like he like lariats him so hard that he flips upside down, but holds on to the head to turn it into a DDT. It's really cool.
And Stryker says, if I could do that move, I would steal it. Which, I mean, big same.
And Phoenix then hits, and this move was, I had a little bit of a mixed reaction to, a picture-perfect rebound cutter. It's so good. The only flaw is that as he's coming back with the cutter, like he bounces off the ropes, handspring, comes back to do the cutter, and Penta obligingly leaps up into the air head first with his arms at his sides to receive it.
Yeah. The old flying nothing.
But it's so good, yeah. It's like not even the flying nothing. It's like the standing nothing. It's like he just drops his guard and it's like, yes, I will now be cuttered.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, he almost goes like horizontal. Like he jumps into him.
Oh, he fucking dies.
Yeah.
But from a kayfabe perspective, I think it's like, I would treat it as he's so respectful towards Phoenix. He sees how good the execution of that move was that he feels obligated to let him hit it.
This must be the inciting incident for one of Penta's signature spots, which is interrupting the back handspring, the handspring off the ropes, rather. He loves not letting that happen, possibly because of this. He's like, that one time I got cuttered into Arkansas, it was a bad time. So
it was a bad time. But Penta able to come right back because after a combo from Phoenix and Penta on Drago, the first bit of Lucha Bros offense, Penta hits a huge fucking Starjammer on Drago. What happens next? Phoenix is tossed to the outside. This is the first time that we hear this. Matt Stryker, as Phoenix begins to climb up the stairs, calls the stairs the Walk of Faith, which is the first time we've seen that. Penta fucking kills Drago with chops. They are the meatiest chops we've seen on Lucha Underground so far, and they cut to the audience who are like having a visceral reaction to it. It's really entertaining. Great editing. Phoenix, in the meantime, while this chop combination has been happening, has made it all the way to the top of Dario Cueto's office. The first office move we have in Lucha Underground. Drago and Pentagon make their way outside the ring. Phoenix comes off the office with a huge crossbody, and then they hit a double driver on Drago. So Penta hits a package pile driver, flips him over to Phoenix, who then hits the Fire Thunder driver. Pardon me. Then, now that Drago has been killed for good, Drago, this is also his last appearance in Lucha Underground. After taking that double driver combination, he doesn't wrestle anymore. Phoenix is able to hit the Poison Rana, drums on Pentagon's head, nails him with the Poison Rana, and is able to get the win with that. Your thoughts on this match before I dive into thoughts of my own?
This match is like this is like a meme of what people think over the top spot monkey matches are. This is like I remember watching it, and like the second Penta hits that first dive in like 15 seconds, you're like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Like,
I really like this match. Yeah, a lot.
It's a really fun match. I
have a complaint.
Yeah.
It's super formulaic. It's just these two guys do a spot together. The next guy comes in and does the spot. Then the guy who just went out does the spot. It's like, and there's a lot of times where you can just like, not that this is bad. So the first time it happened, Drago and Phoenix are having an exchange in the ring, and you can see Penta just waiting there on the outside. He's fully recovered. He's just waiting to get in the ring. And that's not bad because, in kayfabe, you can obviously think like, oh, these guys are doing damage to each other. I have the ability to break up a pin if it tries to happen, but I'm just going to let them beat each other up, and then I'm going to slide in and do some moves of my own. But then that keeps happening over and over again, and at some point you're like, okay, this makes sense, but I kind of want people to be all fighting each other at the same time. And so that's like, it was just a lot of like, okay, now you two do a thing. Now you two do a thing. Now you two do a thing. Okay, all three of you are going to do a thing, but it's only one move, and then you're going to go back to the two-person thing.
Yeah.
I found that kind of formulaic. I still love the match. Don't get me wrong. Incredible athleticism, incredible execution on almost every single move. Every single move, actually. I don't remember having an issue with anything in this match.
Yeah.
There was one bad call. Phoenix hits the Poison Rana, which you could just call a reverse Hurricane Rana also. And Matt Striker says, "Oh, a reverse Hurricane Rana pile driver brainbuster."
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what that is, and that's not what it is, but whatever. So that is my summary of this match.
Yeah, I really like the match. I'll probably give it if we fast forward to the ratings, I'll probably give it a lower one than you, just because like I was annoyed by like, just make one of them the bad guy, guys. Like, just make one of them a dick, and this match works really well. But they're all just sort of bodies.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because this is just a showcase match, more or less. This is just like, by the way, this is what AAA has. Like, and all the spots are great. It's real fun, especially when it's on the right episode, right? Because the other two matches are both very narrative driven. One being about Masquerade Sagrada and the other one being about Muertes. So to have one that's just purely spots, it's a good space for it. Like if this was on a different episode, I think it'd be a lot more draining.
Yeah. It's been a very like, even the matches themselves, even though the other matches have been competent but kind of low energy, and didn't go for very long, and it's been a lot of packages. So I think just having this total adrenaline shot near the end was perfect.
Yeah, and great camera work too. Big theme of the show. We get our first office dive, and they make it look like it's 7 stories. It's great.
And also, I'll point out, I want to highlight specifically the camera work on the office job. They do a great job of editing around Phoenix to make you forget that he's going up there.
Yeah.
So the way that they focus on Penta and Drago, totally you forget that like Phoenix has been spotted going up the steps. And then when you see him on the top of the office, it all clicks. It works perfectly. And also, I think the way that they go into that spot makes sense too, because like Drago like punches Drago punches Penta towards the office and then follows him, and that's when they take the spot, and it works really well. There's not like, there is a little bit of them standing there waiting to take it, but it's not that offensive compared to how that spot is usually done.
Yeah, I actually like it because they look up, they see Phoenix, and then Drago punches him again, like just like hold still. Yeah,
we're both taking this crossbody. You're going down with me, dude.
If one of us is going, Drago seems to take. I think Drago takes the blunt of it.
Yeah, because he fucking dies at the end. Holy shit! And
then there was another thing. About the setup on the stairs. What I appreciate is that they didn't over foreshadow that he was jumping off the office, but they also did show you him going up the stairs. Right? Yeah, if he had just like bounced out to the outside and you didn't see him climbing at all, it would have been like, how'd he get up there? Instead of oh, that's where he was going. And it's more of like I should have seen this coming than where did this come from?
Exactly. I think they handled that perfectly, especially considering like how contrived it could have gone. It's clear they put a lot of thought into it, and it really paid off.
Yeah.
But let's get into the rating portion. How many Mascaras would you give this match before we move on to our last thing of the episode?
I said I was not going to give quarter Mascaras, but unfortunately I'm going to have to violate my rule. I'm going to give this 3.75 Mascaras out of 5 Mascaras.
Wow.
Yeah.
Only on the 3rd episode, and you're violating the rule that you came up with last episode.
Yeah.
That's my head. I am going to receive this well. I think that it's confusing because I'm going to give this 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
And I think that if we had already gone through another season of Lucha Underground, I would have given this probably 3 out of 5 because the quality of storytelling and matches increases so much that going on the scale, like I have to think about the scale that we currently have.
Yeah.
I have to give it 4 thinking of the matches that we've seen so far. Like the best match we've seen has been Johnny Mundo versus Prince Puma, which I would give 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
And this is just a little bit worse than that, so I would give it 4. If I was rating the same match, next season, I would give it 3.5, maybe 3. But honestly, considering what we've seen so far, great match.
Yeah.
We then move on to our last thing of the night, which is the Dario. Well, why don't you talk about it? Since this is your domain, I don't want to intrude.
So, and what has to be, I was absolutely like gobsmacked when this happened. Because for reference to those at home,
this will not pay off for at least a year. At least. Like, I don't remember how many episodes are in the season. But
60, right?
Something like crazy.
It's a lot. It's a lot of episodes. Yeah, and the way I remember it is like they don't do these segments very often. So I was really like, I was so surprised this was happening so early because I don't remember a lot of them actually happening before the reveal. It's like 5 or 6 of them, and they start coming a lot more frequently before the reveal actually happens. So I was really shocked that we were getting one on episode 3 of all episodes.
Yeah.
But why don't you run down exactly what happened in the segments so that we don't confuse our listeners? The Lucha Legion.
Yeah. So this actually happens during the credits, which is fun. It's Dario Cueto. He's sitting in a room, and I don't know if you can see.
You can see the bars.
Yeah, you can see prison bars, and there's like a vague shadow, and he's just sort of like riffing about how I think Johnny Mundo is trying to scare him. He's not scared of anybody. Yada yada yada. He goes, "I'm not even afraid of you," and you. About to reveal who he's talking to, and you just see the shadow cross across his face, and then it cuts to black. So not really a lot. Yeah, you hear some grunting. Yeah,
while he's talking to the shadow, he's playing with the key around his neck, which is the first time that he's touched the key so far.
Yeah. So it's still just insane to me to see that. Like, I'm trying to think of, like... This is like if, like, Thanos showed up for, like, 2 minutes in Iron Man 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100%.
Like, what? Really, guys? It's almost kind of weird, because presumably they have the guy... I'd love to know the behind-the-scenes stuff with this.
I was gonna raise a very similar question. I was wondering, do they have this person like on the roster yet? Like, do they have them signed, or they know what they're going for, but like, do they have the person to go under the mask at this point? We're not going to talk too much about it because we're trying to go chronologically and thematically. So even though we know what this is leading to, we're going to kind of suspend our disbelief.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, there are a bunch of dark matches. And there are guys that don't show up for like a season who are only working dark matches.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Do you think he's working those dark matches without the mask?
He might be, or they might be like trying shit out. Maybe. I don't know.
Either way, that would be really interesting. Well, let's have him on the podcast next season when we have when we're at the top of the charts and we have 10 million listeners.
Yeah, in character. Another great talker for the podcast. Yeah, I thought that too. So tell us about Dario Cueto's coke habit. Can you enlighten us at all about this?
Yes, of course. Very, very insightful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, to avoid accidentally spoiling the content of this segment, let's get into rating the episode as a whole. And I already have a number in mind. What are you thinking?
Well, I went first on the last match, so why don't you go first on this one?
I will. So this isn't a pure averaging of the match scores. This is also impacted by other factors, of course, like the promo packages and commentary. And I'm going to give this I'm really struggling between 3 and 3.5, but I think I'm going to go 3.5 because of the great Chavo work here.
Yeah.
If Matt Stryker had not been that way, it would have been a 4.
Yeah.
Actually, no. If Matt Stryker hadn't been that way, I would have been struggling between a 3.5 and a 4. But with the way it was, it made me consider pushing it down to a 3. But I think 3.5 is the right space for this. Very functional storytelling about Masquerita Sagrada and Mil Muertes. Great main event between Drago, Pentagon, and Phoenix, and then fantastic setup work in the packages for all the stuff going on with Chavo. I really enjoyed the episode, of course, considering with the added minus of the horrendous commentary throughout the show. So I would give that a 3.5.
Yeah. The commentary didn't take me out of it as much as it did with you. So I don't know if I want to give it as much of a handicap or whatever the reverse of a handicap is. Breaking the rule twice. I think I'm going to give this one a 3.75 out of 5 mascaras. Because I really liked... For those of you at home, it's really hard to score Lucha Underground when you're like, well, the matches were this, and then all the segments were good. Because all the segments are always good.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to judge these things.
I don't think we're going to have any episodes that fall below a 2.
Almost definitely. If they do, it's just because, for some reason, Sexy Star came out 7 times this week. That might be the only reason.
And had a really weird promo where she was like, "I will never hurt my opponents" or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Return to the Temple, where we go through and watch every episode of Lucha Underground. You can watch along with us at Tubi.tv. You can watch for free, of course, with ads. You can sign up for an account, also free, and that'll keep track of your progress through the series.
And not only follow along with us, but also follow up with us through social media and email. Our Twitter is @ReturnPodcast, and our email is rttt, that's 3 T's, rtttpod@gmail.com. See you guys soon.